20 people, I think it's enough to get started. So first of all, very excited, everybody that's here. I'm gonna share a quick agenda. I'm gonna try and make this event as fun, as engaging, as insightful as possible so that it's not another boring webinar. A brief intro on the agenda. We'll do a brief introduction. So on my side, to make sure that we make the most of the program, I want to introduce Headstart Academy so everybody knows exactly what we do and why we're doing this webinar. And I also wanted to do a very brief introduction into tech sales and what tech sales actually is, because I know there's some people in this webinar that actually are not 100% clear. There's many people that are not 100% clear on what tech sales is. And then we will move on to the bulk of the session and what everybody's interested about, which is meeting Florian. You've already seen the ads, but Florian essentially is a tech sales expert. He's a veteran. He has over 10 years experience at Salesforce, at ServiceNow, and we will get to chat to him and his career. And then we will leave plenty of space for Q&A. So how to make the most of this session? Sorry, I was looking at the questions. Okay, nothing pressing. That's great. Making the most of this session. Again, let's not making another boring webinar. This is very informal, very relaxed conversation. Feel free to ask questions anytime that you want. The best way to ask a question is through the option that Crowdcast offers you. So you can directly jump in, you can post a question, and that way we can keep track of them. If you want to make sure that we answer those questions, please put it on Ask a Question, okay? You can also ask to appear on stage. So if you want to come on stage, chat to Florian or myself, you can come on stage and actually ask the question live. We would love for that to happen too, and that's definitely an option we can do. And then let's start with a poll, just so we get a better idea of who is in the room, so that we can tailor a little bit the content. So you can go to polls, and there's some options you have in there. I see many people have actually already voted. So the first option is you're evaluating starting a career in tech sales. We have a couple of votes for that one. Quite a lot of people that already work in tech sales and want to meet an industry expert. That's great, because you're going to get your exactly what you want tonight. I work in a different field. I'm interested to learn more about tech sales. A couple of votes also, and actually a little more people evaluating starting a career in tech sales. Okay, that's great. That's what we expected to find in this webinar. So I think you will definitely find it insightful. So let's begin. First of all, a brief intro for those of you who don't know Headstart Academy and why we exist. Essentially, I imagine most of you have already realized and heard this phrase, hopefully, which is that software is eating the world, by a very famous venture capitalist called Mark Andreessen, right, from Andreessen and Horowitz. Essentially, the point here is 10, 20 years ago, the biggest companies in the world, you maybe had one. You had Microsoft in there. At some point, you had Apple in there, in the top companies in the world that were tech companies. Today, we only see 5 here, but actually 8 out of 10 companies are tech companies. So a tech industry is absolutely huge, and they have a huge demand for talent, right? They're growing a lot. We all know there's been a huge demand for developers, but actually one of the biggest demands that they also have right now, and in fact 45% of the jobs available at tech companies are non-technical. One of the biggest non-technical job in demand right now is sales. So if we look at the numbers just for Germany as an example, for DACH actually, so Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, we have 16,000 open job positions for junior sales professional and only 4,500 people that qualify. And the estimate is that by 2030, we will have 9.2 million open sales positions in Germany, in DACH, sorry. So it's a huge profession, and it's very much in demand. And the issue why there's not enough talented people coming into sales is, well, different blockers, right? So there was a study done by a famous psychologist in Princeton that determined that 20% of the sales population 20% of the total population actually was very well suited to work in a sales environment. But people are not considering this role, first of all, because it has a very undeserved negative image. People think of sales, they think of the Wolf of Wall Street, they think of a negative connotation of sales, and that is absolutely not true, as we will see today with Florian. We've asked Florian to be completely honest and transparent about his experience with sales, so he will tell us if that image is actually true or if it's a cliche. The second blocker why people don't go into sales profession is because there's no clear education path, which is what we are trying to solve at Headstart Academy, right? There's no clear way to get into sales. People just get into sales accidentally. And the third one is the job access is restricted. So many companies, still old school, they were looking for degrees, they were looking for previous experience in sales, and that's something we also want to change. So in a nutshell, what we do at Headstart Academy is we select people based purely on skills. So we don't care if you have a degree, we don't care about your previous background. We have determined the skills that are basic for success in sales, and we select people based exclusively on those skills, and we put you through intensive training. We believe that model of studying for 4 years of your life and not studying for the rest of your life is completely outdated. What we think is you need to get into the job market as soon as possible with the education needed just to get in there and continue learning for the rest of your life. So we've devised a 6-week bootcamp. The curriculum is designed by industry. So what we did was talk to more than 50 companies and see exactly what they demanded, what they were looking for. And that's how we developed our curriculum. We do real world sales practice. Don't put a post up today saying, that the best way to learn something is actually by doing it. And we are firm believers that that is true. It's 100% online because, as you will see, one of our pillars is making education as accessible as possible. And by making it online, we make sure we make it accessible for the whole world. And you receive individual mentorship, individual coaching. We have specialist coaches, people that have worked in the industry that work with you throughout the whole program, giving you feedback and helping you make the most of that program. Once you've graduated, we help you find your ideal job and we connect you with our network of hiring partners. So we've already closed pretty good deals in Germany. We have a deal with Doctolib, with Playo, Personio, HubSpot. And after graduation, we connect you directly with those tech companies. And we have one big promise, and it's that all of our courses are risk-free. This means if you don't land a qualified job within 6 months, tuition is completely free, regardless of how you choose to pay. You can pay upfront, you can pay after you get a job. Now, why we exist, which at the end of the day is the core of what we do, is we believe everybody deserves a space today in the digital economy. But for that to happen, we need to give everybody access to education and access to opportunities. And what we're trying to do is disrupt traditional education based on 2 main pillars. The first one is making it accessible to everybody, right? By giving them the option to pay after, by making it online, for example. And then designing it for employability, by designing the curriculum based on what the industry needs, making it short and to the point, connecting you with those companies, etc. Enough about Headstart Academy. Now, today, before we get to chat to Florian, I wanted to cover very briefly what is tech sales. I know some people in this call still are not very clear exactly on what tech sales is. So let's have a brief look. So tech sales is a very broad term. It's a very generic term that refers to selling technology. That can be software, that can be hardware, or that can even be services, and it can be in a B2B setting or it can be in a B2C setting. For people that are familiar with the acronyms, B2B is business to business. It means selling to companies, and B2C is selling to consumers. Usually, when we talk about tech sales, we are referring to B2B sales, so selling to companies within a software environment. And the reason why is software as a service, or the way that we sell software, has been the industry within the tech sector with the biggest boom lately, and it's the one that has the biggest need for sales profiles. So that is why we train people to become sales professionals in that environment. Having said that, what we teach can also be applied to any sales environment. Again, don't want to go too deep into this one, right? We have some blog posts. We recommend you go to our website if you want to learn a little bit more about tech sales. But essentially, what does a tech sales professional do? So when a buyer is going to do a purchase, they go through what we call a journey in marketing, in sales. they don't just get a call, give out their credit card and buy. They actually become aware that they have a problem. Then they have interest in purchasing. Then they probably evaluate potential different options that they have to solve that problem, and then they purchase. We do a bunch of sales activities behind to nurture that buyer from the process of when they realize they have a problem all the way down to when they actually purchase. Those sales activities include cold calling and emailing, for example, and social selling, just to get access to those leads, to those profiles. We do discovery calls. So instead of selling to them directly, what we do is to try and qualify them through discovery calls to make sure that they are people that are worth selling to. Are we solving a need that they actually have, that they actually want? Then we usually jump on demo calls where we showcase the solution, and then the natural step would be to negotiate a deal, follow up, and close. And there's a bunch of different roles in tech sales that bring this to life. Now, this can vary widely per company. You might have a smaller company in a certain industry that has one person that does all of the activities that I have described here. And then you have huge SaaS companies that have this very, very well compartmentalized, and each person is very specialized in one activity within the sales cycle, which gives birth to a wide variety of different roles. The most common ones when you enter are either a sales development representative or a business development representative. They are in charge of generating qualified leads, so they usually do social selling, they do cold calling, emailing, and those discovery calls. And then the other most common one is account managers, and account managers are in charge of closing that sale. So again, I won't go too deep into the rest because we want to get to Florian, but I hope this gives you a better idea. Now, final slide before we get to Florian, I wanted to cover skills, right? And this one, again, varies widely depending on the industry and the company, but we've seen that at least the 5 skills that we think are most important for salespeople are curiosity. So people that are curious, willing to learn, proactive to learn. Coachability, so people that are receptive to feedback and are willing, once again, it's the same principle, to learn so that they can learn as fast as possible. Empathy. You're going to have to deal with a lot of customers, and one of the key aspects in sales is getting into their shoes, and empathy is key for that. Then it's a tough business, especially at the start, right? You're in the trenches executing all the time, so you need to have that drive. You need to have that intrinsic motivation to succeed. And then work ethic, right? How well do you behave when people are not looking in the workplace? All right, so I hope that was insightful. I hope you now know what Headstart Academy is about. I hope you have a better insight into what tech sales actually is. If not, please ask a question. I see there's already some questions in there. Let me actually see if there are any questions pertaining to tech sales in there. Okay, yeah, they're all for Florian. Florian, everybody's screaming for me to bring you on stage, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do that directly. Let me see. So before you come in, let me do a brief introduction, right? Florian is from Germany. He's currently living in Berlin. He's worked over 10 years in the industry. He started as an enterprise business development representative, so as a BDR, like I mentioned, in Salesforce, and within 7 years, he got 6 promotions. So I'm hoping you can tell me exactly how you did that, Florian. His last position at Salesforce was a strategic account manager for Siemens. So he was in charge of Siemens. And he just moved to ServiceNow, where he is, from what I understand, developing a new industry. So, Florian, let me bring you on stage real quick. Where are you? Florian. I hope you haven't left. All right. Invite Florian. Here we go. All right. Welcome, Florian.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. Let me get rid of this so that we can see you in full power. Okay. Can everybody see Florian? Hear Florian? Yeah. Somebody give me a yes. Great. All right, so I hope that introduction was accurate. Was it?
It was almost 100%. Almost.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, so before we begin, Florian, thank you so much for making the time. It's not every time we get to talk, to someone who's been in this industry for so long, especially thinking that the industry actually hasn't been here for so long, right? SaaS, I think the first SaaS company was probably Salesforce around that time, and it wasn't so long ago that company started, so tech sales hasn't been around for that long, and you've been there for a long time. So very excited to chat to you, and thank you for making the time.
Of course.
So I thought we would begin, Florian, right? One thing that we teach our students is telling stories. And actually one of our core values here at Headstart Academy is loving people, their stories. So why don't we start with your story and start at the very, very beginning? So what did you study, and how was that period of transition, right, from studying until you got maybe your first job at tech sales?
All right. I'll try to be as brief as possible, though. So I studied, I did the dual study program in Berlin with Siemens, and the degree I finished was the Bachelor of Business Administration, focusing on management and marketing. That's also where I met your co-founder, Dominic, and we are basically very, very close friends ever since. I decided to leave Siemens, although they offered me a position. I was one of the very few students to actually leave Siemens. I felt like I wanted to see a bit more of the world, didn't want to be stuck in a big corporation, just being like a wheel in a huge machinery. And I also didn't know, honestly, what to do with my career. And I felt that I might as well use the time and find out. So I moved to Munich, because I basically also wanted to go on a new adventure. And in Germany, that's as far as you can go in terms of new adventures, from Berlin to Munich. And I started in headhunting. Why did I do headhunting? I always had a strong sales background. My family, my grandfather did sales, my father did sales. Both built their careers in sales and manufacturing, and I wanted to try out sales. And I felt like headhunting, being in the position to sell, well, truth is, selling another person to a corporation is probably one of the toughest sales you can do. However, I did that for about 1 year. I think I was mediocre at it. I did not like, I did not the micromanagement going on in headhunting. I did not like a lot of the structures going on in headhunting. Whenever someone thinks sales, and whenever someone thinks shady sales and like the bad vibes of sales, that's usually connected to headhunting and the recruitment industry in general. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Dominic's writing, not a fan of the recruitment industry. and so I basically left, tried out 2 different jobs, weren't so pleased with that. Almost felt like my time in Munich was kind of set up for failure in a way, because I just did not find, the secret sauce of what can I do with the character traits and the talents I have, and how can I find that? And again, Dominic coming into play, or a mutual friend of ours, Dirk, who I connected with through Dominic, and he was working at Salesforce as a solution consultant, and he proposed to me that I should consider Salesforce, and so I did. They gave me an entry position. I said originally, no, I want to do account management right away, but they weren't too fond of the idea, and so they hired me as a business development representative, and that was a bit over 10 years ago.
Okay, that's super interesting. So, what was the job like? right? What was that initial, and be completely honest, because I know, BDR, SDR jobs, some people mention they can be very intense. Be completely honest. How was that first year? How long were you in that first role?
So I was in that role a bit over 12 months.
Okay.
You know what? I think you have to put away a bit your pride when it comes to you being put into a completely new industry, which is the tech industry. At that point, I didn't know a lot about it. When you come into a fast-paced software as a service, platform as a service company, one of the most innovative companies in the world at that point, and still is, you just should be thankful and you should be soaking everything in. So that's what I try to do, because in the hiring process, I recognized at some point, okay, this is a huge deal. Salesforce is a huge company, not known, but huge potential.
How big was it?
I don't know worldwide, but I think, one of the first 3-digit number employees in Germany on German ground, or in DACH even.
Wow, so around 100, and now? How big
a couple of thousand people.
Wow.
And which was also my luck, but we get into that later. But I mean, coming back to your initial question, what was my day-to-day business? It was very KPI based. So I had to do a lot of cold calling. I had to do a lot of territory planning. I had to do a lot of discovery calls. You mentioned them earlier. And in the end, I was paid for qualifying opportunities that the account managers would accept as said opportunities and would put them in the next stage. And that is where I was basically getting paid at that point. Okay. So yeah, my job was being on the phone all day, every day.
So it was mostly calling?
It was mostly calling, yes. At that point, they didn't bring BDRs to meetings. They didn't. And I'm pretty sure they don't do that right now too. But yeah, it was a lot of calling.
Do you think that has changed? So maybe now sales is, we know that calling is definitely, we actually tell our students it's the most effective way to reach to someone because it's a direct contact, right? But we do know that social selling is in play and definitely emailing, etc.
Absolutely. At that point, we didn't have LinkedIn Navigator, Sales Navigator, or a lot of sales tools around that. So at that point, social selling was not that much of a topic as it is today. Absolutely. So my BDRs right now that work for me, I'm not their manager, but they do work for me and they qualify opportunities for me. They do a lot more social selling, yes. But at that point, it was email and calls.
And what did you learn, Florian, from that experience? I know when you have intense experience, it's probably the best learning periods of our lives, and that must have been one, no? In the trenches the whole day.
Oh, absolutely.
So what did you learn that maybe you apply in your day-to-day now?
I did learn that you should never be afraid of the phone. I saw people struggle that just found excuses to not go and talk to people and not trying to, talk to the highest ranking, maybe even C-level person in the company that the account manager wanted to identify, wanted to meet, and wanted to qualify. And you had to do the job. And so that was the first thing my manager told me. She was always like, don't be afraid of the phone. If there's something that you're afraid of, come to me. We talk it out because it is something you can overcome. And be humble at some point, because you always try to succeed. You always try to push yourself to the next role, obviously, and to the next career path. But you should really soak everything in, expand your toolkit, and make use of the technology and the training you have available.
Absolutely. So that's a good segue, I think, right into the early stages. I'm sure people will have some questions. We can ask them later. But you mentioned career progression, and you had a pretty good career progression, a stellar career progression, I would say. So maybe talk us through it, right? So how was that? What career path did you take, and did you choose to take it, and if so, why? And what were some key learnings in there?
So always remained within the enterprise segment, so the large customer or large prospect segment of Salesforce. I started out, as I said, in business development in the manufacturing and financial services industry. And I went on to become a team lead within that growing team. And so that was my first promotion, being a senior and a team lead. Then I was promoted to, at Salesforce, they call it enterprise corporate sales, which is, put in different words, junior accounting. So at that point, you were responsible for qualifying and closing smaller opportunities within large prospects or customers, so that the senior account manager could focus on the big elephants while you're chasing the rabbits around the elephant. And that was already such a huge step, because all of a sudden you're not paid on qualifying opportunities, but you're actually paid on the revenue you're closing, which was mind blowing at that time for me, because all of a sudden I had a quota and I had a target, and that was scary. That was scary. But good luck and the right timing basically at some point propelled me to a more senior role, and then I was lucky enough to take over a lot of accounts that I was already working on as a enterprise account manager. So a full account manager, being able to close multi-million dollar or euro deals, and being responsible for an even bigger quota in the end. And that at some point later on led me to being responsible for Siemens, which is one of the biggest customers at Salesforce still today, in EMEA.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. How does multi-million sales cycle work, right? Because there's many different types of sales and sales cycles, but I'm interested to see, right, when you get to the top and when you get to the big accounts, how does one of those sales cycles work? How long is it? How many stakeholders do you have? How is navigating that process?
That could fill a book, obviously. So the first thing I want to say about that is it doesn't differ too much from smaller opportunities or smaller deals, because in a way we were always in good terms fighting with the commercial business unit, taking care of smaller accounts, because we're always felt like we were doing the important jobs, and but talking to them, I found out that in the end it's the same process, and smaller companies have to go through the same decision processes, the same qualification processes, because that investment is as important as it is for a bigger company, or maybe even more important, because it's a bigger investment comparably. And so it doesn't matter if it's a big deal or not a big deal. The only thing that scares you obviously is your quota and the numbers and the big numbers, but that's about it. But other than that, I was fortunate enough to go through a very defined learning process at Salesforce, from not knowing anything or hardly anything, which was tough, to being able to know more and more about the product, about the companies, about being a trusted advisor, about being able to transform IT with our solutions. And so it's really everything, working together as a team, knowing who's your champion within the company, so many things that you're learning at that point. And also a deal cycle can be anything from, when you're very lucky, 6 months to 2 years. It's
Wow.
Because you have to understand that it's a tech sales is, you have to explain what you're selling. You have to build trust in the solution and the platform and the products and the software that you're placing at the customer. And you have to go through proof of concepts. You have to go through intense demonstrations, meetings that take weeks. So it's and the negotiation phase usually also very long. So yeah, it takes a lot of time.
I'm sure it does. So that's a lot, right? Throughout your career to have covered. What are some core skills that you think are important? Maybe you can separate them from the beginning. It's a very different role, on the phone, and then all the way to now.
My manager, my first manager, in my first interview, she said, "So you know anything about tech?" And
you were honest.
I was honest. I said no. And she said, gladly we got along. She said, "Don't worry about it. It's all about coaching and coachability and curiosity." So two of the main aspects that you mentioned in the beginning. You have to understand that sales is a craft. It's not like, hey, I'm confident, so I can do sales. I'm a natural born seller because I'm confident and I don't know what. It is all about a toolkit that you are able, from one step to the next step, enhance and adapt also to your strength. And I cannot stress this enough. It's really about being able to listen to people, being coachable, being curious, to go the extra mile, to do some further self-development, to use another training, to improve on your skills. That is the most important thing.
Nicely said. Yeah, completely agree. What is and again, honesty on this one, what's the thing you like the most and the thing you like the least, maybe, about your role?
Yeah. So I think I tried to translate before we were meeting up. I tried to translate something, and I just wrote it down. What I like most about it is that you're the architect of your own future and your own fortune. I'm sorry.
Nice.
So basically, I do not see myself working a 9-to-5 job that gives me a fixed salary, and I'm not able to, boost my salary in any way. So what I like most about sales is being able to work hard and then see the results with getting the commission, getting the bonus, and just being able to work on that and realizing that's your well-deserved money in the end, because you did night shifts for that project. And this is what motivates me. So this is the best part. The worst part, losing a deal. That is, I mean, we're in sales to win this, right? No one likes losing, and that it doesn't even matter if it's sales or not. You don't like playing football and losing. It's but knowing you have been working on a deal for X month, and this is so important, not only for your company, but also obviously for your own sake, and then you're losing it. maybe also to circumstances that do not seem fair at that time or whatever, or maybe due to a screw up from another colleague or whatever the reason is. But losing is the worst part of it. And it does get you down if you're not able to cope with it correctly.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that's probably a skill you develop through time, right? When you've lost some deals already, but it can still be soul crushing, I imagine.
And trust me, I lost a lot of deals, and anyone who's saying they never lost a significant deal is lying, and you shouldn't have them as a mentor or something because they cannot teach you the right things. I've lost plenty of deals in my career, and this will happen. And this, if you're having a good manager, if you're in a well-working company, they will accept that failure is an option.
Nice. Talk to us about, so one of the reasons also we're in business, right, is we want to change the image of sales. There's that image. We actually ran a study not too long ago, and we realized that image is already changing, which is great. People don't associate anymore so much the image of sales to that pushy, sleazy salesperson that tricks people into buying stuff they don't need. That's almost gone. Did you find that at the start of your career? Did you have to explain to your parents, hey, I'm in sales, and they look down on you? Because we've heard that one before too. And what's the reality for you of sales?
I did not have to explain to my parents because obviously my father built his own career in sales, so that was all good. I actually felt closer to my dad because I now understood a bit more the pressure, but also the success of being in a sales career. I did find it with prospects and customers at Salesforce within the first years. Because as you mentioned in your introduction, Salesforce was not a well-known company. It was a cloud computing company. It still is just doing cloud business, and tried to sell that at a very early stage in Germany with the strictest data privacy laws in the financial sector. So that was fun. And that was tough because they often did not understand that it's safe to go in the cloud and the advantages. And yes, maybe at some point, because Salesforce is an American company, we came across a bit pushy. That might be, especially in the first years. Now, honestly, if someone from Salesforce calls a prospect or a customer or whatever, they listen 100% of the time, because now Salesforce has the reputation, has earned its reputation. And to the reputation of sales, I don't think that in tech sales that reputation exists. It's simply a question of, I always work for cloud computing companies. We always have something that is called the possibility of withdrawal from customer side. So they can sign a contract, but they can withdraw. If you have lied to them, if you made false promises or anything, they can withdraw from a contract. And it's a subscription-based licensing model. So they can just quit. What that does is obviously it makes you very, very honest in the capabilities of the product. I'm always lucky enough to work, in my opinion, with the best products in the market. But it makes you very honest, it makes you very humble. It immediately puts you in not a shady position, because that's the first thing you explain to a customer. And with that, it's honesty at that point. It really is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That reputation does not exist anymore in tech. I'm 100% sure.
That's great. Great to hear. Okay, I have one final question on my side. I think I see questions popping up everywhere. We have 9 questions in there, so we're going to open it up as soon as possible. But I do have one last one from my side. Who do you think should get into tech sales? So what kind of profile, what they should be looking for?
I mean, the most important aspects have been already addressed,
Mm-hmm.
and it's too easy to say everyone, because it's just not for everyone. I totally understand that, and
Mm-hmm.
people still shake their head when I'm telling them what I'm doing. Um, you have to have a certain stability and confidence within yourself, or
Mm-hmm.
else it just wouldn't be as much fun, in my opinion. Because if you don't feel like calling someone or presenting in front of someone is something fun rather than something soul crushing,
Mm-hmm.
it just would make you, in a way, probably sick of it very soon. Because a good seller is always in front of the customer. In what
Mm-hmm.
in what way? In one way or another. I think don't underestimate creativity. It's creativity is something that is so important, especially when it comes to complex deals and when it comes to adding value to deals, and building a story for the customer and telling a story well to a customer. So yeah, I would say coachability, curiosity, a certain level of confidence,
Mm-hmm.
definitely creativity, and some ambition wouldn't it wouldn't be too bad, because obviously you don't want to be a business development representative for 4 years, but you want to move on at some point to the next step.
But there's opportunity, right? If you do your job right, from what I saw, most people 6 months, 1 year and a half, they start going in different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's again, and you have to be in the right time, in the right place at the right time. A lot of times, because it's definitely also luck. I mean, 6 promotions. Not all of them were just because I was the best salesman at Salesforce at that point, but because we were a fast-growing company.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the progress in tech can be indefinite.
Any final recommendations for aspiring professionals? If you could tell something to your 20-something-year-old self, maybe, what would it be?
Invest in stocks earlier and go to Salesforce as soon as possible. It's no, I would definitely recommend to my 20-year-old self to pursue a career in tech sales. It's looking back at that emotional roller coaster, it was definitely a life-changing experience that I didn't expect to be so grand when I made that initial decision to pursue a career in tech sales. It boosted my confidence. I met amazing mentors who influenced me tremendously, met amazing friends, was able to, build a wonderful life. I would imagine that I'm having right now. Well, I would not imagine, I'm pretty sure I'm having right now. And it just helped me in so many ways. Yeah.
That's a great way, I think, to end my round of questions, Florian. Thank you so much. We have many questions around here, so let me pull it up and see what comes up. And some people have even upvoted them. So let's start from the top. Changing from sales to tech sales, is there anything which should be kept in mind to have a smooth transition? So people who don't have experience necessarily in the tech industry, right? Are those translatable skills?
I think it's more. I honestly think it's more difficult than it used to be, because when tech was something very small, especially the companies I worked for, they were looking for people, and so I didn't know a single thing about tech, but I was still able to land a job there. And I think today, if you know the basics, and you're not afraid of learning more, you should be 100% fine. You should understand what the company that you're trying to land a job at is doing. Understand the basic concepts, understand how the customers of said company are using the products. And if that makes sense, and if that adds value in the end for everyone, it's probably A, a good company, and B, if you understand that concept, then you should definitely have no issues, because the rest you will learn.
Yeah, it goes back to curiosity and willingness to learn at the end of the day, right? If you already have some sales skills, they're going to be translatable, right? Empathy, knowing how to ask good questions, listen to the customer, etc. Be a little curious, research the company, research the industry, understand exactly what you said, the customer. And I think any previous experience in sales gives you a head start, pun intended, into the tech sales profession for sure. Great. All right, more questions. What has a tech sales career done for you personally, at a personal level, right, in your personal life?
All right, I could be very emotional right now, so
go for it.
All right, so I found also in a way my girlfriend through tech. Why? Because I was very lucky to land a huge customer 1 year at Salesforce, and I won an award for that, and I was able to go on a paid vacation to Hawaii with a +1 ticket in my hand, and I was seeing a girl at that time, and I was able, through my job, to invite her to Hawaii, and that was thankfully impressive enough that we're still dating till today, and that was 5 years ago. So I think that's the best thing that tech brought in my life.
So you found love thanks to tech sales.
Yes. In a way, I hope not only because I had that ticket in my hand, but no. But other than that, I think what I mentioned earlier, it helped me build out my strength in my life. I'm confident, I'm happy. I think that's the most important thing. I feel challenged, not every day, but a lot of days in the year, and also feel seen. I have an amazing management, I have amazing mentors, and I feel a lot of support also.
Great. All right, a more specific sales question from what I see. Hi, Florian. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us today. How would you develop interest from a lead that are short and already replied to you, we're not interested? So from how I interpret it, how would you develop interest from a lead that they say they're not interested, they don't even know they might need help, but they are too comfortable and or don't want to make changes?
I mean, I don't know the full background. There are so many variables. So the one thing I always did when something like that happened at Salesforce, I just never gave up, and I maybe found another person that I could talk to, or I called them and I said, hey, no bullshit, but I truly and strongly believe that we should have a 5-minute conversation that would be of value for you. And you're able to hang up the phone after 5 minutes, but we should talk because that is happening in your company. This is where we can help, and this is where it will propel you. And let me explain that in detail in 5 minutes, and then we're done.
So get them on the phone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things we also tell our students is always ask why. People are very responsive when you ask why, right? So if they say they're not interested in an email, in whatever, ask why. And even if you don't close the sale, you get to continue that conversation, and you'll also find some interesting information as to why they're not interested, right? And maybe it's a blocker that you can remove. So
absolutely, it totally depends in which situation you feel you are in. Do you feel like you have to do an elevator pitch tailored to their needs, or do you feel like you have to get as much information out of them as possible, where an 80-20 rule applies? You let them talk 80% of the time, and you really try to focus on just asking questions, open questions. Yes.
We have one by Dolphy. She's a current student of ours. She's finishing. She's doing an incredible job, and she's asking, understandably, how has B2B SaaS sales evolved in COVID times? Have you seen any changes?
So me and my colleagues, we usually speak of the IT bubble, because we have not been so much affected by COVID than probably other industries. Yes, there have been some downfalls. Projects have been postponed or canceled because a lot of companies didn't see that they were able to work together within the project teams as smooth as before COVID. Yeah, there are obviously some industries where we're also selling into. For example, the automotive industry is currently not really investing a lot. But generally, in terms of the revenue, looking at ServiceNow, where I'm working at right now, looking at other tech companies, has not been impacted too much by COVID. On the contrary, I do build out a new industry at ServiceNow, which is the public sector industry in Germany. And on the contrary, we are seeing a spike in interest and a spike in selling our solutions to the government and the federal states, because we are part of the vaccination effort in 2 German states. And the ServiceNow technology is the core of it.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, more questions. This one's very interesting. So, working as a software developer, and I wish to transition into pre-sales. How can I do this transition without prior sales experience?
They will probably, run down your doors. Is that a saying? They will.
I'm not sure, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you will be crushing it. I don't know who asked that question, but you have an amazing background to start a sales career. One of the most successful sellers I had the opportunity to work with had a technical background, because they were able to basically build out their own demos and present them in front of the customers. So amazing opportunity, I think.
Completely agree. And you mentioned that sales is a process, and it's all about the process, and usually more technical people, engineers, are much more knowledgeable and can adhere to processes much better. In fact, one of our favorite books by Mark Roberge, he talks about his experience, right? Being an engineer and actually thinking of sales as a science, designing a funnel, each stage in the funnel. So I think engineers have a natural, I don't want to say head start, again, a natural advantage when it comes to sales, for sure. All right, we have a couple left. Let's see. What is the difference between pre-sales and sales? Is it easier for an engineer to get a pre-sales engineer job than an account executive job, which requires more sales experience? So I imagine this one changes from industry to industry and company to company, right? But yeah, I don't know if you have any insights on that one.
In the end, it's the closing experience. Usually companies ask, if you're interested in a sales job, they usually ask you, okay, how many years of closing experience do you have? And what revenue responsibilities did you have? Did you hit your target every year? If not, what happened? So in the end, it has something to do with experience. So usually people start out in pre-sales and then move to sales because that's just the way it is often.
Yeah. Cool. All right. To be mindful of time, I'm going to ask a couple more, and then I think we'll be done. It's late. People want to have dinner. Let's see. This is a fun one. What is your favorite first sentence when making a sales call? And I imagine she refers to a cold sales call, or what was it when you did those cold sales calls, right? Besides introducing yourself.
Well, that's a tough one. So what immediately comes to my mind is when I had a so-called gatekeeper on the phone. So I needed to go through him or her in order to reach the person I wanted to have. I always said, "Hello, Mr. My name is Florian Keerl, and you need to help me right now." So I always try to, do some sort of bonding immediately and put them in a position of being A, worthy, and B, being able to help me in some way.
That's a fun one. We should try it out.
It's basically telling them, hey, right now, you are the most important person for me because you are the one who needs to help me. It's simple as that. And if you don't help me, I will have a hard day. It's just what it is. And that usually worked. But honestly, it's been a while. So that is a good question. I need to reflect maybe further on that.
Maybe do a couple of cold calls. Maybe we can do an event. We can do some live cold calls. That would be a fun one.
I'm up for it.
Wonderful.
I know my wife would be too. She loves that kind of stuff.
We should do that, kind of like a sales call hackathon.
Yep.
A live one.
She's a tough one. I've been through a cruel school, but I'll organize it with you.
Okay, let's do it. All right, one final one, also interesting and pretty specific. Well, first of all, there's one that I'm going to answer very fast. Do you need an MBA to get into sales? Absolutely not. You don't need any specific background to get into sales. But Beatrice's question was, do you remember how you handled tech objections in first calls when you still lacked lots of industry knowledge? So I imagine this is a pain she is feeling right now.
And also totally relatable. But what I can say, Beatrice, is that you have a team. You have a team behind you, right? So you have to, at some point, if you don't know things, you have to refer to a colleague. Hey, that's an amazing question. Let me write that down and let me get back to you on that, because that is a question for our solution consulting team. And they will jump on that as quickly as possible. And you know what? You'll get an answer tomorrow. Just always, if you don't know the answer, make sure you write it down, and someone in your organization will be able to answer it. That also brings or puts you into the situation of being completely fearless in front of the customer. I mean, you should know your things, but if the customer asks questions that you just cannot know at that stage and point, no problem.
It's completely fine to say, I don't know, I'll get back to you, right? That actually establishes that certain level of trust because you present yourself as vulnerable. So completely agree.
Absolutely. Or maybe also explain your role again. Hey, I'm you know what? I'm here to do some qualification, so that the next meeting with the solution consultant will be as efficient as possible for you. So I am asking questions that will help us understand the situation and dig deeper with you in the next call and in the next demo.
Be as natural as possible. Yeah, completely agree. Florian, I think we are at an end. It's been an incredible pleasure. on my side, I learned a lot, and I think we have 14 questions in there. We didn't even have time to cover all of them. I'll send them to you after. Hopefully we can get them replied at some point. But thank you so much for your time.